There's only one solution: nurture your farmers. No farmers, no food. No matter how many factories you have, no matter how many pack houses you have, it all starts on a farm.
Could food inflation trigger a wave of civil unrest in South Africa? I posed this question to Dr. Theo de Jager in a recent episode of my podcast, Solutions with David Ansara. What follows is a short extract from our longer conversation. You can watch the full-length interview by clicking on the link in the description below. Enjoy. Are you worried about food inflation in South Africa triggering some kind of social unrest? We've already had last year the riots and looting that swept through KwaZulu-Natal. Do you think that this is a danger for South Africa?
I think it's a much bigger danger than the riots which we saw in KZN last year. Because of what I said, that nothing stops a hungry man. You know, that Arab Spring which you referred to, it was really sparked by a 2-cent increase in the price of those flatbreads, which is the staple food in Tunisia, Libya, Algeria. I often visit those farmers in North Africa, and every time I visit them, we discuss the issue of food inflation and instability. Now, in South Africa, we've been blessed for decades to have high quality, good food at cheap prices. But more and more, it becomes unaffordable in certain families, in certain communities. This is the very reason why, when COVID struck and the lockdown started, Saai focused nearly all its energy on the distribution of food parcels. We communicated to family farmers across the country and we asked them, your second grade and third grade products, won't you rather donate it and take it to the nearest village? Let's take it to the squatter camps. Let's make sure people do not go hungry. Because when they go hungry, they will take to the streets and they will go where they think the food is. And the farmers responded with thousands of tons of foodstuffs. Ourselves in this office went out to the deep rural villages in the Limpopo and in the Northwest, dishing out food parcels there, which we got donated from farmers. Fruits, meat, grain, even juices, stuff that has already gone through the first step of processing. But alas, we have seen higher or more rapid escalations in input costs than ever in our lifetime before. You must just see what the price of fertilizer has done. It has doubled in a few months. The price of diesel, everybody who owns a vehicle knows what happened to the price of petroleum and diesel. The price of mechanization because of the price of steel. And many farmers simply could not keep up with production. You will not borrow twice the amount you are used to borrow from the bank if you are not certain that the price you get for your products will justify it in future. Now, unfortunately, in this very same period during COVID, when agriculture was the best performing sector of our economy, 2 years in a row, in this very same period, the land bank went through the floor. And farmers no longer have the access to financing they had before. We sit with at least 30% of farmers who do not know where they will find the money to buy their seed and fertilizers in this coming planting season 6 weeks from now. And if you have some funding, you will not plant your marginal fields. You will not try to plant more than what you should or what you are used to planting, which is what we need to fend off a shortage of food, because we don't know how long the Ukrainian war will last. Why is this so important? Because this war could not happen to two worse countries in the world. Between the Ukraine and Russia, they are responsible for 30% of the grains that cross international boundaries. Many countries are totally dependent on the grains from Russia and the Ukraine. To give you some perspective on that, South Africa is by far the biggest producer of maize in Africa. This year we have a bumper crop again. We had a crop of more than 50 million tons of maize in South Africa. But in the Ukraine, they produce 144 million tons of grains every year. And twice our total crop is being exported from the Ukraine. So it has a massive impact on global food security. And the moment that there are shortages, people start to move around. Then you have refugees, people crossing the Mediterranean to get to Europe, people running across borders from Zimbabwe to South Africa and from Mozambique to South Africa because they believe they can feed their children here. And a lot of this really starts with the availability and the affordability of food. There's only one solution: nurture your farmers. No farmers, no food. No matter how many factories you have, no matter how many pack houses you have, it all starts on a farm where the primary production is taking place.
Yeah, and Theo, just to bring this conversation to a close, if I think about the lunch that I'm going to have today, it's probably going to be a steak from the freezer that is vacuum sealed and a ripe and ready to eat avocado. And it's easy to take that for granted, that comes from the store. But where does the store get those beautiful foods? It's from farmers such as yourself and the other farmers that you represent. So just as a closing word, what would you say to ordinary South Africans who aren't farmers to instill in them an appreciation for the critical role that farming plays in our society?
If a fairy would land on my shoulder and give me one wish for the relationship between the consumers and the farmers, I would wish that every woman who walks into the chain store stand in front of the shelves, choosing what fruits, what vegetables, what meat family will have for dinner tonight, will spare a thought for the world behind the shelves in the shops, the world where people put their fingers in the soil to produce that food, a world in which there are no quick fixes, a world in which that which you eat today has been planted 6 months ago so that it can be fresh on your plate. And a world in which the people doing it, although farming is the oldest profession and still the biggest profession in the world, every year there are fewer and fewer people who choose that as a career because of the risks associated with that. And then, tonight when she dish up this food, speak to her children. Ask the brightest young minds in our nation, won't you consider a career on a farm?
Thanks for watching. Let's hand over to you, our audience. Do you think that food inflation could cause civil unrest in South Africa? Leave your thoughts down in the comments section. Also, if you enjoyed this conversation, you might want to check out the full-length interview. That's linked over here. You can also explore my other channel for more long-form conversations. That's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. Until next time, take care.